Hello and welcome back to the channel. We're here to introduce a three-part movie called Kizumonogatari. Part 1 of the movie, Taketsuhen, introduces our main character as he goes from being human to turning into a literal vampire in a matter of days. As always, spoilers ahead, so viewers beware. Part 1 of Kizumonogatari starts with a young man walking inside a building, but starts running frantically trying to escape something the viewers can't see. He climbs up a long, winding staircase, showing us his fangs along the way, and finally reaches the top. He opens the door and sees about 1,000,000 crows chilling around a large tree. As he climbs down the building and walks around, a sliver of sunlight shines down on him and the man bursts into flames. Unable to get his bearings straight, the man, still in flames, falls to the ground below. He is in agony as he watches the sun shine down on him one last time. This is how we meet our main character, Koyomi Araragi. We rewind back to March 25 and see Araragi walking to school when he sees a pretty girl coming towards him. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind blows away the girl's skirt, giving Araragi a full view of her underwear. Araragi tries to avoid eye contact and the girl instead tries to strike up a conversation about skirts in general in order to dispel the awkward tension. Araragi ignores the girl and goes on his way, but the girl follows him instead. She calls him by his name, saying that she knows him because they go to the same high school. As it turns out, Araragi also knows the girl and recalls her name as Hankawa Tsubasa. The two sit down on a bench and make conversation, with Tsubasa eventually asking Araragi if he believes in vampires. She mentions to him a rumor about a vampire in town in the form of beautiful blonde woman. Araragi wonders if maybe she only stands out because she has blonde hair, but Tsubasa tells him that whenever she stands under streetlights her hair is almost translucent, and she has no shadows. Araragi says that it's just a silly rumor, and though Tsubasa agrees, she states that she still wants to meet a vampire since she's so intrigued by superhuman creatures. Sensing the weird tension in the air, Araragi switches up the topic and instead asks Araragi why he doesn't have any friends. Araragi responds that if he did, it'd make him less human because he'd end up caring about them and thus it'll turn into a weakness for him. The two go back to the high school and Tsubasa asks Araragi if he can come with her to the library. Araragi refuses, which leads Tsubasa to get Araragi's number instead. She leads him to go inside the school, teasing him that he's now made a new friend. Araragi also walks away happily, even ignoring a car crash on his way home. Recalling the events of the day, Araragi decides to go on an evening stroll and finds himself buying adult books. As he's walking back home, the lights all over the city start to turn off one by one. A little weirded out by this, Araragi starts walking and finds himself staring at a bloody trail leading to the subway tunnel. He follows the trail all over the subway tunnel. It eventually leads him deeper to the subway platform. The trail stops at a bloody mess in the middle of the platform, and Araragi comes face to face with the blonde-haired vampire. She calls out to Araragi and commands him to help her. Araragi inches closer despite his fear and reaches for the vampire in an attempt to help her sit up. As soon as he lifts her, he sees that all of her limbs have been cut off and he throws her away in fear. He tries calling for an ambulance, but she says all she needs is his blood. The vampire introduces herself as Kiss Shot Acerola Orion Heart Underblade, and yes, that is her full name. She demands his blood once more to restore her limbs. Araragi, undeterred by the supernatural being before him, says he thought that vampires were immortal. The pretty vampire lady says she lost too much blood to regenerate or transform herself, and now she's about to die. Still making conversation with the vampire, he asks how much blood she needs, and she replies she wants every blood inside him. Araragi wants to leave, but for some reason is having a hard time grasping the entirety of the situation. Araragi finally gets himself to move away, but he moves slowly as if he's afraid that the vampire is going to run after him. When she sees him start to leave, the vampire throws a tantrum, refusing to die, and asks him profusely to help her. Araragi watches the vampire inching closer to him, saying sorry as she does so, and this finally freaks out Araragi. He takes off running in fear and disbelief, but instead of heading home he stays at the subway entrance, contemplating on doing the right thing. Taking pity on the literal vampire who could and might actually kill him, Araragi gives her some of his blood. She feasts on his blood until he's unconscious. Then, Araragi wakes up somewhere with a child resting on his arm. Araragi inspects his watch, and he finally discovers he's been out cold for 2 days. He leaves the child alone, and now we cut back to the first scene of him getting burned alive by the sun. The child comes to his rescue and hides him away from the sun by dragging him into a parking lot. Here, the child finally tells him he's a vampire, like her. Apparently, this kid is Kiss shot from earlier, and she explains to Araragi that he's now her kin and her servant. She walks him around an abandoned cram school, which is now their home. Araragi asks why she now has a child's body, and she explains that his blood was insufficient, thus she took on a form she could sustain. This also means that she can only sustain a certain amount of immortality, and that most of her vampire powers are gone. Araragi then asks why he was turned into a vampire instead of dying, and Kiss Shot explains that every person whose blood has been drunk by a vampire will turn into one. Araragi asks what she wants from him, but she doesn't respond. Finally, Araragi asks if he can return to his human form, and she tells him that he can, provided that he finds her 4 lost limbs. She explains that the hunters who took her limbs are special vampire hunters. And so, Araragi sets out on his first mission. He comes face to face with Dramaturgy, Episode, and Guillotine Cutter in one dark alleyway. He tries to reason with them, but his pleas fall on deaf ears. Suddenly, another man saves him from getting mauled. This man is apparently another vampire, and refuses to give out a name, for now anyway. Araragi comes back with the man to their hideout, and reports back to Kiss Shot. At the hideout, Araragi asks who the man is once more. He replies with his name, Ashino Meme. He acts as an authority on monsters and apparitions, and is the one who helped Kiss Shot find their hideout in the first place. The three make idle conversation inside the hideout, and Ashino even offers to mediate between Araragi and the 3 hunters, although it won't be for free since he asks for $2 million in return. Kiss Shot asks for the entire plan, which honestly just consists of asking the 3 hunters nicely, and if that doesn't work, he'll finally get to separating them from each other. Then Araragi can come collect her limbs for Kiss Shot. After getting reassured that Araragi won't be bothered by collectors or guarantors in the future, he agrees to shoulder the fee. This delights Ashino, and the 3 finally have a deal. And that is the end of Kizumonogatari Part 1, Teketsu Hen. Stay tuned for the other parts soon, and if you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on the next installment in the series. Thank you for watching.